are getting a lot bigger. Like, I just interviewed a young lady yesterday. She's a bikini competitor. She has an amazing physique. She looks like she could probably do figure. Both me, Kale interviewed a young lady. Her name is Jessica. We talked about how she looks like she could be possibly a figure competitor, but she earned her pro card as a bikini competitor. It's just about, what do people want more out of bodybuilding for themselves? And also, if it's will be more acceptable if there's more press, more attention. And like I said again, Raheem, if somebody steps up and be that face, like yeah, you do have guys like Chris Sebum, but you really need somebody really
No, no, you
try to
don't. No,
stand
you
up.
don't. You don't have no. You don't have nobody. No one outside the media knows who see that man. See, the problem is only within the body community, bodybuilding community, they know who see them is. The problem is this: no bodybuilders have tried to say, "Hey, now that I'm up at the top, let me get an agent. Let me do projects outside of bodybuilding, so I can get more views, more fans, new fans, and everything." That's the issue.
Here's,
Right.
you guys are beating a dead horse, and it's getting kind of redundant. Because
Yeah.
here's the problem: at the end of the day, you keep saying, like, as me and my wife are both pro bodybuilders, you can sit there saying, "Oh, Mark, this." No, God damn it! Well, think about it, Raheem. If you're the guy in the film industry, the NBA, the WNBA, the NFL, the NHL, the MLB, they're their own brand. If they want to, they're going to market their athletes so people come and watch. It's not the athlete's responsibility. The reason why people watch the NBA championships, the reason why people watch the NFL, the reason why the people watch MLB, tennis, etc., is because they market their brand. The IFBB is not marketing their brand like these other people. That's the problem. It's not the athlete, it's the brand. It's not the. I played the
I
NFL for a year.
agree.
It's not the NFL. It's not the. It's not the. I played the NFL. It's their brand is the NFL is the strongest brand in the world, and they make more money and more money every year. Jerry Jones has one of the shittiest football teams in the world. But guess what? He is a marketing guru when it comes to his fucking team. And his team is the most wealthy. He's the cheapest fucking owner, but he knows how to market and brand his team. That's the difference. The problem that we're having here, guys, is not, oh, Andrew Shaw needs to do this, Chris Sebum needs to do this. No, the IFBB needs to do their fucking due diligence and do their job. And it's the funny thing is, like, the thing that pisses me off more than anything is whenever like, The Rock would have been a horrible person to represent the IFBB. Are you fucking serious right now? Guess what? The United Football League is on TV every fucking weekend. Every weekend they're on TV. Every weekend they're on ESPN. And everybody thought that shit was going to be a bust. But guess what? They're on TV every weekend. He had a show where people were competing against each other. Everything that dude has touched has turned to fucking gold. Fucking platinum for that matter. So you want to sit here and
Keith,
tell
I
me,
agree always with you.
so you want to sit here and tell me that him not being a part of the IFBB would have hurt them and not help them? Are you shitting me right now? Are you shitting me right now? Everything that guy has touched has turned to money. And that's the problem is that the problem that we're having in this whole situation is that the powers that be want to control in the sport. And here's what you guys have to understand. There's two presidents to the IFBB. There's an international president there's international president, which is Raphael, and there's Jim Mannion. And they don't get along, by the way. They don't like each other. They don't get along because the idealism of what they think should happen in the sport. Here's a prime example. Tom IFBB, he sent Cedric McMillan home from Brazil because Cedric McMillan came late to a meeting. He put his ass home and sent his ass home. But guess what? Raphael was pissed off, and a lot of other people were pissed off because guess what? Those international fans came to see Cedric McMillan. Samson Dua, everybody, a couple years ago before he became Mr. Olympia, was like, well, why is he doing all this show? Sam said one thing. The reason why I do these shows in Europe because my fans here don't get to see me in the United States. So I come back and do this show so that they can see me. That dude is his net worth now is crazy. Shit, he built a gym and they supplied him with every piece of equipment in there for free. He's driving around Porsches, brand new houses, all this other stuff because he understood the way he branded himself was. And guess what? Who said it best? Tamer Brother came out and said it. He is the IFBB needs Samson Duad because Samson Duad understands how to market himself. Well, by you sitting there saying that, Tamer Junior, whatever, why aren't you guys doing your due diligence and using that and expanding that to your advantage? And they haven't. They have not. Weeder he's probably rolling over in his grave right now.
Yeah. Joe, he put guys like, Arnold out the front, Luke Rickard out the front, so many other bodybuilders out the front, Lee Haney. I mean, even he pushed Ronnie Coleman.
Here's the thing. What did he say, though, George? When Weeder was alive, he had to go out because he was in trouble for a minute. He had to go out and says, what is going to change this sport and my marketing strategy? And who was that? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And he said, I see this guy from Austria, and they used him as a poster boy, and it took off from there. Because he understood his strategy. Huh?
May I interject for a second? Keith, I don't want you to think what I'm saying it all falls on the athlete. What I'm saying is that and I know that if the promoters are not doing their due diligence to promote the sport, then I'm saying is that then the athlete should just go rogue and say, you know what, forget it. Let me promote the sport as me. Let me be that personality. Because you're right. There is no Roger Goodell of bodybuilder. There's no late great David Stern of bodybuilder. There's none of that. This is what I'm saying, because if every athlete is dissatisfied about the sport and everything, at times you have to get off, you have to go rogue or go off the plantation and say, okay, I'm going to go in business for myself. Because if I'm not making the money I need as a bodybuilder and I want to branch the sport out in the Americans, then let me do that. Like I was telling George, hey, let me get on these podcasts. Kai Cenat is the biggest podcaster out there. If Andrea Shaw got it onto his show, then Kai Cenat's fan will go to her social media and they'll be like, oh, she's the coolest thing in the world. Because like I said, again, it is frustrating for bodybuilders who wants to make a living out of the sport, not make a living out of it because of the powers that be. And given the fact that Dwayne didn't get the opportunity to take the sport to a different level, which he would have done, you as that Olympia winner, you have to say, the hell with this, let me go rogue, let me get a paycheck, let me put this sport on the map, because obviously the promoters are doing this.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You hear so many promoters, like, again, I say Chris Liam's a prime example, but that's the last conversation I had about women's bodybuilding. And he said, well, when somebody's willing to sponsor the show, I'll put it in the show. Well, here's the thing. How don't you know it's going to be successful? Why don't you give it a run for 1 year and see what happens? But now they're taking out women's physique as well. So why don't you give it a run and see how well it does? Because I was there. Wings of Strength showed up. And it was a phenomenal show, But again, you don't take things out and you encourage things to go in. And they're taking things out. And their whole opinion about, why should women people are not appeal to? How do you know that? Because there's a whole bunch of people, guess what? Think about it. Tampa women's bodybuilding was out. And guess what? Now it's back in. Why? Because Jake reached in his pockets, handed Tim Gardner some money, or came to some agreement. Now it's back in. So you're telling me the biggest show, the most competitors you took out of the circuit at the Tampa, now it's back in. Why? Because Jake Wood understood the logistics of what are we doing here? Because we know, and I'm not going to say names, but we know some people in our industry, me and my wife's industry, can give a fuck less about bodybuilding. They can give a shit less.
Yeah, like I said, Jake. I at one point I was not doing this anymore, but Jake, I want that money. I want that gun. I gotta always announce.
Again, at the end of the day, people say we talked about this thing, the schmo thing. I heard because I said so. What you're saying is Jake is your biggest schmo. He just got a lot of money, so because he can put his money where his mouth is. Is that what we're saying?
That's what they're saying.
And I wouldn't call him a schmo. I love Jake. He's a great guy. I just think he got into something and then got people in his ear that really didn't understand. He didn't understand what he was getting into. And now you got people kind of walking you through. And I think as he goes through it, he's starting to understand it more than ever. But again, he didn't understand it when he first got into it. And again, at the end of the day, I'm like, how do you call a sports like Arnold? We get into this all the time. Arnold, how do you call yourself a sports festival? You got pole dancing, but you don't have bodybuilding. You got pole dancing, but you don't have women's figures. You got pole dancing, but you don't got fucking this. You got wrestling. You got all this dumbass shit that I don't care to see. But you got all these, but you don't have these crucial things in your show because you don't care to see them. But other people, the world, he has 6, I think he said at one point in time, he wanted 6 different shows on 6 different continents. I think that's what he said last time I heard him. So you're telling me in those 6 different continents, they don't want to see women's bodybuilding. They don't want to see women's figure. They don't want to see women's physique. Is that what you're telling me? How do you know that? How do you know? Because there's people who want to see it. You may not want to see it, but there's people who want to see it. And again, at the end of the day, if I'm Jake, I'm disassociating myself with that because if I am now the guy who owns not IFBB, but controls the Olympia in the sport, and again, the women's bodybuilding, women's physique, and women's figure are in my Olympia, but not in your show, in your sports festival, I can't fuck with you. I can't fuck with you no more.
You know, be a good idea. You know, be a good idea if Jake brings in either Dwayne or Danny in as solid partners. That would be a great idea. I mean, they will still listen to him regardless. They will take the meeting. You should do that.
Here's the thing, and Raheem is right. I mean, think about this. Shaq, people don't understand. Shaquille O'Neal is at all these bodybuilding shows, at the Olympia mainly, and a lot of these shows, because he's a big fan. Shaq is one of the most smartest marketing guys I know on the face of the earth right now. He has his hands in everything. So why not bring a guy like that in? But again, here's the problem. When you got guys with more money than you, you're not fucking with them because then you get pushed out. Because they understand, and the sport is dying. It is dying. No, and nobody in Europe is growing, in the United States is dying. How is that possible?
No.
I mean, but how is that possible? The United States, the biggest country in the world, and the sport is dying. It doesn't make sense.
Like I said, it still says it's a fringe sport, and people not are ready to open their mind and accept it. We have here my man Exit Gucci 23 coming through. So like he says, salute Brother George in chat. Also, he says, Brother Raheem is echoing. He needs to cancel the noise in the background. Also, he says to me, he says, Jake, I need my money. And he's laughing at me. Yeah. Because the thing is, it's both, I think, as a company, when you have these people, like especially these athletes, like any other company, you put them out there in the front. You know, like Jim Mannion, you're supposed to be the boss. But right now, I think he's grooming his grandson to be the next. And I think anybody who should be more about this, as I'm saying, is Tyler Mannion. If JM's not going to do the footwork, let him do it. Jim's not doing footwork. JM, he's too busy running around, taking pictures, stuff like that. He just did a photo session over at the St. Louis Pro, because this year they had women's physique. They had wellness in this place, because that's why at the Van Al show, you had a lot of ladies. They had like would have been 14, but it was 13 women competing at that show, because they didn't have a show for their first year division in St. Louis anymore. So they went to Vancouver. I know one lady, she wanted to do the show, but she couldn't do it because she couldn't get a ferry to get their time. That's Marika Jones. And the thing is that I think Americans were kind of fickle. We like something when it's hot at the moment, and then after a while we get bored with it. We're America, it's supposed to be this beacon, but we're petulant children.
Well,
This
here lies the problem, George. Not to cut you off.
but
When when people watch live streams, and watch shows, and I have people at my bar who looking at shows that when Tina's on stage and not understanding and looking and be like, how did that girl beat that girl and that girl beat that girl because it's a bunch of political bullshit. Americans are not fucking dumb. They're like, I'm out. I don't want to watch this shit because it makes no sense. Because I always tell people the eye in the sky don't lie. If you're looking, and Steve Weinberger said it, oh, well, when you're there live and looking at it in person, it's different than watching it on TV. I get that. It ain't that. But again, if you got HD and all that other stuff, it becomes different. At the end of the day, what happens here in the United States, people are tired of looking at bullshit and sitting there saying, this doesn't make sense to me. How does this girl beat that girl? How does this guy beat that guy? It doesn't make sense why. And you don't have to be a person who absolutely know bodybuilding to look at somebody's pictures and look at them pose and be like, well, that girl clearly looks better than that girl. So how did this girl beat that girl? And they don't want to answer those questions. That's the problem. And so guess what? People just tune out. They're like, well, this doesn't make sense to me. I have no interest in that. When you play football or baseball or basketball, the winner, like I said, this was a hard sport for me to come into because when I came across the finish line, I won the race. When we scored the most points, we won the football game. Now I have 7 or 8 judges subjectively looking at me, judging me. And again, you're talking to a 3-time runner-up before I turned pro, sitting there saying, this doesn't make sense to me. But again, at the end of the day, it's not about making sense to me. It's about making sense to the judges. And the fans are thinking the same thing I am. Like, how the fuck did I lose to this guy? But again, it's subjective, and that's the problem. And some people get tired of the subjectiveness, so they leave. Kai Green was a prime example of that. Kai Green was like, here's the thing. I'm tired of losing to Phil. And Phil didn't beat him every year. The last Olympia when we filmed Generation Iron, I felt Kai beat Phil. I love Phil. I know him. But I felt that, but again, at the end of the day, in their minds, who they wanted was who they wanted. Guess what? Kai went along, walked away from the sport. I think he's thinking about coming back for something. And guess what? Made more money. And again, I will always use his terms when we did the CT Fletcher deal. He goes, use the sport for what you can get out of the sport, not what the sport can get out of you, because at the end of the day, they don't give a shit. It's pretty simple.
It's like my favorite movie, Players Club. You make the money, don't let the money make you.
Exactly.
That's how it is. And the thing is, there is money in the sport. It's just about how you want to get at that money. Exactly. Are you willing to take in the time, put in the work? And also, again, promotion and advertisement helps. If these promoters want to make money, then go out in the field, talk to the people, reach out to people. Like Raheem said, talk to people who are not in the sport, but also have a big platform.
And here's the thing. You telling me that Jake Wood, Tyler Mannion, Steve Weinberger, Jim Mannion, Sandy Williamson, and Dan Solomon, Tim Gardner, are you telling me, and this is where Raheem's whole vision comes to fruition, you're telling me that you can't go to these local markets where your shows are at, to these news stations, to these newspapers, put an ad in the paper for Christ's sake, for people still buy newspapers, or put an ad on their online deal, whatever the case may be. Talk to these people about, because I think one time I seen an interview with like Ronnie, Jay, and a bunch of guys on the news, like a Good Morning America, like, hey, the Olympia is coming to Vegas, blah, 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 blah. And it created interest. You telling me, and you telling me they can't do that? That's something simple that they can do. That they can reach out to these guys and be like, look, we got this show coming on, and you got the money. You're making money. So put your money where your mouth is. Nobody's going to turn down something if you put some money up. If you say, how much does it cost? I remember when I was with Muscular Development, and I used to think that the guys you seen on the cover of the magazine were just guys they picked. And I found out later that, no, these supplement companies were paying $10,000 to $25,000 for their athletes.
Oh, we lost my big bro.
To be on the cover.
There you go, sweet.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, money talks, bullshit walks. And if you want your sport to grow, put your money where your mouth is.
That's the thing is, they don't want to put their money in my face.
They want to keep their money in their pockets. That's the problem. The only
That's
person that's spending money is Jake.
Yeah, shout out to Jake. I mean, he's put up a fight, and we talk about here. Like I was kind of a little rub raw about the situation with the Rising Phoenix, but again, I understand what he's doing. He's trying to uh, put it. He's trying to spread out the money a bit, share the wealth. But again, if you cut down the prize money for a show like the Rising Phoenix, would any of the big superstars want to jump on it? I mean, I saw Sneaker Givens get an interview, and Ashley Jones get interviews, and they're kind of like on the fence about it. Because Salikas is going to be competing at the Masters Olympia coming up in the end of August. Ashley, she's already qualified for this year's Olympia. I think she might try to do another show just for the hell of it. If not, then there was talk about maybe she might do the Texas show, but now that's gone.
Here's the question that I have for you guys, because you guys are big WWE fans. I know guys. I know Brock and all these guys. But here's my question to you guys: if they're sitting here saying, and I think what was it? WrestleMania was last night or something like that, and John Cena. I've seen
2 nights.
I've seen it on. Actually, I've seen it on ESPN. I've seen it at. I've seen it on ESPN. So you're fucking sitting here going to tell me that when you see these big ass guys on TV, that there is no associate? Because I know for a fact from one of my close friends who said, I asked him why he walked away from it, and then he ended up coming back. He said the drinking and the drugs and all. I watch guys die.
I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Proceed. Sorry.
I said, so I don't understand if you're associating our sport with drugs. How don't you associate the WWE with the same thing? I don't understand.
Because wrestling is a different platform. It's not seen as sport. It's sports entertainment. And then, like we all know, there was like the steroids. But remember the guy, Schultz, who slapped that a reporter years ago. And some people, Macho Man, he was like that one interview we do, like the cream of the crop. He supposed to be, he was get up there, wow, walk out. Because it's sports entertainment. Where bodybuilding is not seen as a sport per se. It's one thing, like you see a guy like John Cena.
The question is, the biggest thing is why? Why?
Well, because people look at bodybuilding as a pageant, not a sport. Because again, you're going. This is where bodybuilders who are IFBB pros need to educate the new people that even though we're on stage with posing, it's not a pageantry. It is a sport. You have to really break it down to a person like to the new people like a C student, like they're a C student. You got to really break it down to sport, and this is where again where the athletes needs to come in again, because you could get new fans when they get a better understanding of if bodybuilding is a sport or pageantry. Because if you ask the average person out here, they will say it falls in line more like a pageant than it is a sport, because all I see is people oiled up and flexed and everything. So this is where the athletes, the pro, have to, do a seminar, do a class.
Hold
I
on.
think you got creative too, also, because you got to make it entertaining.
So
The people not going to think about it.
I see go to all these fucking gyms are just there for what?
I think it's different. I think it's
Well,
different.
I'm not.
Because a lot
Sorry,
of they do work out. That's a common fact. But
they work out for being
flex,
healthy.
Yeah, exactly. For somebody to just watch it, and to understand it, I think it's a different story.
Here's
in my
the thing.
opinion.
Do you know how many guys I know at my gym run gear who don't fucking compete? A lot.
Plenty.
Plenty.
Well, that's a new thing right now, Keith. I mean, look, we all know right now they do, like you just said a couple of months ago. When these guys today, when they do bodybuilding, they stick the needle in before they even do the workout. When I work out, I don't do that. I've been working out since I was 14, so I work out with the weights. There's no chemical. There's nothing like that nature. If I decide to pursue bodybuilding, then I have to say, okay, this is what I have to do. But this generation, they go in and they'll get on the gear quickly before they put up on the weights, and which is totally backwards.
What
even the
I disagree on
bodybuilders,
that
they
because I
don't
have 4
even.
competitors right now getting ready for shows who are all natty, mind you, and look fucking phenomenal. Because I told them, and this is what I said, because I said, when you decide to do that, for one, it's a personal choice. It's not my choice as a trainer. It's your choice. I said, and most people will say, when I exhausted every option and I can't get any better, like Sean Ray said it, Kevin Rabone said it, Dorian Yates said it, Flex Wheeler said it, and somebody else said it. When I got to the highest I could go to and couldn't get any better, that's when I transitioned to that. Because when you're an IFBB, I mean, they do have Nat. I mean, like I have a buddy Cornelius who's competing with this weekend in Utah in the natural show, and this dude looks fucking phenomenal. But he understands competing as a natural athlete versus as an IFBB pro natural athlete versus competing as a IFBB guy who takes gear is completely different. But again, at the end of the day, he understands that's where he wants to be, and if he wants to be one of these top guys, like Flex, remember when Flex had the kidney deal, and he went in, I think it was 92 when he decided not to run gear and just go into the show. He still looked great because he had all that muscle maturity, but again, he said that year, I want to say it's 91 or 92, where he said he didn't want to do anything, and he still looked good. I mean, he still couldn't be Ronnie, but again, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is all these people I see in the gym, and the funny thing is, what you guys don't hear a lot of people tell me when I talk to people is this: I have a bodybuilding friend. I have a friend who competes. I hear that so much, and I'm like, really? I have a friend that looks just like you. I'm like, really? I'm fucking 285 pounds right now. I'm all muscle. He looks just like me, really? But again, when you guys say that, it's confusing to somebody like me, and it's very frustrating to somebody like me because I don't care if they sit there. It's like a bikini girl saying I'm a bodybuilder. No, you're a bikini girl. It's like a figure girl saying I'm a bodybuilder. No, you're a figure girl. It's like and the list goes on. You know what I'm
But it
saying?
depends where you at, because where I'm at, like, people not really focusing on the bodybuilder. Majority of the times, people talking about the NBA or the NFL or maybe boxing. Nobody, I never hear, very rarely. If somebody talking about bodybuilding, they talking about working out or going to the gym, and that's it. Not to no
it
show.
falls it falls down to this again. I want to stress this again, Keith. It falls down. You know why people don't talk about bodybuilding or just in the gym? It's because you do not, and it's sad to say this, but the last time a bodybuilder who had the charisma to attract people to it outside the industry was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Last time he was Mr. Olympia was 45 years ago. This is the fault of the promoters because I'm going to keep it real honest. I like, truth be told, I'm going to have to say this. I know I want to get some negative feedback from this. I would rather get a bodybuilder, rather she's male or female, who has a great charisma, who knows how to deal with the media, handle the media. I'd rather crown them Mr. or Mr. Olympia than the person who has the bestest muscles in the world, but just want to dip until next year. That's what I'm saying. This is where it goes down to
But here's the
selecting your
thing. Hold on.
champion. It has to do that.
Here's the thing, Raheem. You have the current 2024 Mr. Olympia who's doing all that, and the IFBB is doing shit to help him promote the sport.
And this is why I said they need to go
Go
rogue.
follow him. Go. I don't know if you guys
And,
follow Samson, but from his gym being open to him traveling around the world to his dog to his wife to everything he does, and even Tamer's brother even said he is the epitome of what the IFBB needs in this sport. But what
and
is
this
the
is where
IFBB doing to help him promote the sport to make it even better? Not a fucking thing.
he's no, you're right. They're not doing nothing. This is why I said again earlier that again, both Olympia winners, male and female, they need to get off the reservation and go rogue. Like I said, you know what? Get both of them. Dua, Santa Dua, and Shaw should get an agent. That's what I'm saying. Get you an agent. Say, hey, put me in this commercial, that commercial, this commercial. Do where you can get a visible fee because if you know that the IFBB Pro is not doing nothing for you and there's no money coming in like you wanted to, then this is what you got to do. So, like I said, yeah, if you got enough money to get you an agent, go to Hollywood, get you an agent. Say,
And
hey,
here's the thing. Here's the
you got to
thing.
do that.
here's the thing. My son is 21 years old. He plays basketball at the University of Hawaii. And now he's entered himself in the portal. And he has an agent. And agents don't charge nothing. Agent's job is to find you a new college where, like, I think they said his marketability is worth anywhere between $80,000 and $100,000 right now. So there's schools that are willing to pay him to go to a different school, $80,000 to $100,000 to go play basketball for him, because that's the world of NIL deals now in college sports in general. So it's just so Samson and his wife. If like I said, if you guys don't follow him, you need to follow him and watch this dude, because who gives a guy a $280,000 card for free? He has to be doing something right. Look at this gym.
Yeah.
These guys brought all this equipment that you see coming into this gym came from Brazil for free, because they understand his marketability, what he does, and all these other things. And then when you have Tamer's brother go on the Wings of Strength channel and says, this is what our Mr. Olympia should be doing, then why aren't you guys doing more to help him, Andrea, and all the champions do what he's doing? All the stuff that you see him doing here, he's done on his own. All of it.
And I commend him that. But this is what I'm saying. Look, you got podcasts. I'm going to keep saying this. I hope that they do. Rodney Coleman was a former Mr. Olympian, and Shannon Sharp had it on the show. My thing is, why isn't the current Mr. Olympia on the show? This is what I'm saying. This is what you got to do to get more eyes visible on it. Because here's the thing. Right now, the media in general is talking more about the dark side of bodybuilding. If you want to go and counteract and say, hey, there are more positive than these negative stories out here about bodybuilding, let me go on these platforms and explain to you about it. Let me go to this, because like I said, that Lyle Zato situation that happened in 92, okay, people use gear. Has there been any cases of anybody who used gear get brain cancer? That scared a lot of people. That's the whole situation. Was he
But
using
whose
steroids?
job
Yes,
is
he
that,
was.
though? Raheem, whose
But
job is that?
no, but we know,
Jim Mannion?
no, it's
Is
not.
that
No,
Jim
no, it's
Mannion's
not.
job and Tyler's
It is,
job?
but it is, but that's what I'm trying to explain to you. It is their job. But if this is what I'm saying, if they're not doing it, then as an athlete, because you in that federation, you're gonna have to be like, yo, I gotta teach a new fan base what it is and what's not, because all they doing is they're allowing the negativity of bodybuilding out here, the dark side, the drugs, the sex, all that stuff. You get what I'm saying? They're allowing
But
it
here's the
to
thing, though.
bust out there, but what you want to do is you want to counteract and say, listen, that's not all bodybuilders are doing that. This is what the sport is, and this is where as athletes you have to come in, because the promoters not doing that, then you should do that, because if
But
you ask anybody out here, they get out the negative part, not the
but
positive.
but here's the thing. Tyler Mannion, and I think you guys think you've seen it, George, anyway. What did he came out 2-3 weeks ago and he did? He said that they are introducing the NANSM to the IFBB and the NPC, so that's a certification that I have, the top certification that you can have to be a sports trainer, whatever case it be. So they partner up with the NANSM to sit there and say, so athletes can be healthier and find good trainers, which none of these trainers are going through that. I said, you did that, you said that, but right, and this is where your theory comes into play, Raheem. You did that, but what you should have did that with the NASM and did it to a broader picture than on your fucking Instagram. And that's what they didn't do. They didn't introduce this to the world. They said, oh, Tyler Mann sits behind his desk just like he's like, oh, I got great news. You got great news. But that's only going to people who follow the sport, not the world that's following the sport. And when you can make that happen, then people get a better general idea like, well, maybe this is not too unhealthy for me. Maybe I can do this in a healthy manner versus always tying it to steroids. Because again, I have 4 athletes getting ready for shows in May and June who are all natty, who look fucking phenomenal, and I'm very proud of them. But you can't tie everybody who wants to get on stage to drugs, and that's the problem. And that's what he needs to do versus just sitting behind his desk. And I know Tyler since he was a little shorty before he even became who he is now, when he was wrestling as a youth wrestler to Maryland and things like that, and was introduced and became a part of the NPC and the IFBB. Again, at the end of the day, you can't tell me what your young mind, way younger than your Steve, way younger than your grandfather, way younger than anybody else on that panel, that this is what we should be doing especially how big social media is, this is what we should be doing to open and broaden our horizons to a more marketable thing for people to understand that they can do this in a healthy manner and not an unhealthy manner.
Here's the thing about Tyler, he's supposed to be pushed as the face because his dad JM, he's not really part of the whole business of it. He's more of a guy like takes pictures. He might do stuff here and there. He's just the son of the boss. But the grandson's the one they're pushing. He's kind of like, you look at The Godfather. Michael was the youngest, and he overjumped Fredo because Sonny got killed because Michael was smart. He knew things. He understood there. I see like this. JM is Fredo. And
you know what the funny thing is? Not to cut you off, George. So when Tina did her first show on the Muscle Mayhem here, Tyler and Billy were here judging that show. And I remember walking in the lobby and them looking at me and saying, that's what we want women's bodybuilding to be about. And that was Tina's first show when she was an amateur. But then that's not what it became. And I'm like, you sit there and look me in my face in the lobby and said, this is what women's bodybuilding is. Sexy, it's pretty, and all this other stuff. And then you went you did something completely different. That's what I don't understand about these guys. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, like Chelsea looked, to me, I think last week, Chelsea looked amazing. She looked great. Especially, with all the health issues, she looked amazing in Vancouver this last weekend. She looked, and she brought in her condition from the week before, I think a week before, 2 weeks before. She looked amazing. When you got people like Chelsea, when you got people like Tina, when you got people like Andrea, when you got people like Andrea Ashley, et cetera, that's what your women's bodybuilding should be about, and that's what you should be posterizing, but they don't do that. Because if people seen that you can be feminine, you can be muscular and feminine and sexy and all that stuff, I think it'd be more accepting to society, but that's not what they show. They don't show that, and that's why people like, oh, that's disgusting, because Iris, and no, I love Iris, but Iris took it to an extreme level, and that's why it went away, and it was supposed to come back more feminine, more sexy. But again, at the end of the day, she looked really good. I don't know if you have a picture of her last show, but she looked amazing. And I thought in 5 months or 6 months, because she was big, she was having a lot of health issues. She and Tina showed me a picture of her today. She looked amazing. But again, I don't follow Chelsea. Raheem, do you follow Chelsea?
Nope, I don't follow Chelsea.
I don't follow a lot of these girls. So I don't. This is the first time I'm seeing these pictures.
I follow Chelsea. I follow Chelsea. I've been in contact with her a bit because she was going to do the show because she felt like she was all right at Triple O, but then she took third, and I think those 2 weeks give her time to get in conditioning and bring in shape. She the lady who's second to her, I interviewed a while back, Lena Becca. She looked really impressive, and it was really close between her and Lena for first place. Because Lena, if you saw the pictures, like let me see if I can pull them up. And I know most definitely the Female Bobbing Channel talked about this. Let me give me a second. If BBC.
They need people like me and you to be on a panel with Tyler and these guys to make them understand what the bigger picture, but they don't want that.
Let me explain something to you. First of all, you keep saying about society won't accept female bodybuilders. Let me say something. Society is accepting women with fake ass, BBLs. Okay, right now that. So Botox. If you could do that, Botox, big women and all that stuff, right? So it's just people have a fetish of, preference. So it's not like I said, I would say 100. See, these people about to act like society's going to chase them down to a alley where there's no way out, and they're going to be like, oh, you shouldn't be looking like that. Freak of Nate, that's not happening. No. It's just that you walk, if you walk in New York, it's not common to see female bodybuilders all the time. But if people see all the time, they're like, oh, this is a female bodybuilder. So what? They'll talk to them. They'll be like, hey, you're a cool person. It's like I said, this sport has to grow both ways. Like you said, Keith, it does have to be the promoters. But again, if the promoters are not doing anything, than the athletes, because all I hear is the ladies talking about, we ain't getting paid, we bust our butt, da da da. But yeah, I commend you for busting your butt, but no one knows who you are.
Nope.
This is what you're missing the key. And
Yep.
you can't always say, oh, the men are getting paid more. See, now you bring a sexism, because let me tell you, truth be told, this sport, like you said, is dying. That means
Yes.
the men are not even getting paid.
Nope.
So all the females gotta stop doing that. It's annoying, because it's like, okay, this is what you gotta do. You just can't say, give me money, money. You have to bust your ass, and you have to let people know who you are, and not just be on Instagram. Like I said, and there's so many. I told George about Kai Cenat. Kai Cenat, every young kid love Kai Cenat. There are female bodybuilders who have teenagers, preteens, and they know who Kai Cenat is. They see their mother on Kai Cenat, they be like, "Oh man, my mom is famous. Not only is she a female bodybuilder, but she's on Kai Cenat." But this is what they're not doing. You're complaining about not getting money, but the question is, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
I know it's a horse that we've beaten so many times, but I think it's just up to everybody involved in the sport, from the competitors to the higher ups. Everybody, you know your parts. Step up and work on your parts. If you are Jake, go do more. If you are Jermaine, do more. If you are competitors, everybody has to play their part. If they want their sport to survive, like I said again, I'm not a competitor. My big brother here is a competitor, and this is his last hurrah. He's this is where you should step up. It shouldn't be like people like myself who's talking about this. Y'all supposed to talk about this.
Well,
You
and here's the
know,
thing. When you go to the NFL, or you go to the NBA, you go to the MLB, or you go to the NHL, they have these things called rookie symposiums where they teach you the rules and all this other stuff. You need to have need to have a collective group of people, current and past people who compete in the sport and understand the sport. Like, you have Victor Martinez, you have Kevin LeBron, you have Sean Ray, who's active, you have Dorian and all these guys. Then you have the current, like, you have the Chris Bumsteads, the Andrew Shaws, the Samson Dua, and you sit down at a table and says, how, as a collective group, can we make this sport bigger and better?
yeah.
Again, at the end of the day, what TNT did with the NBA and understanding what they had to do, and that's why they started having these little, not besides the NBA championship game, but in the middle of the season, they started having these tournaments where, these teams are winning stuff because they understood, they say, we have to make this more marketable for not just for the NBA season and not just for the NBA championships, but to keep people entertained, and that's what they did. The NBA did a great job because they understood, and the NFL understood that these contracts were expiring and they had to do something to make more money. So that's what they did. If you bring these athletes to the table with a Tyler and a Jim and a Steve and a Sandy sitting across the table and says, okay, we're going to sit in a room and we're going to try to figure out how to make you guys more money because it's about you guys. They always say it's about the athlete and make the sport more money, which makes everybody more money. How do we do that? And it has not happened at all. And that's the biggest problem.
You need a Vince McMahon. You need a Vince McMahon type of day. You need to Vince told the wrestlers, listen, you can't do this forever. This is why I want to push you into different things. Either you work production, or I want to push you out to Hollywood. You get what I'm saying? Because prior to Hulk Hogan, they did Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper was good. It took a couple of years, then they found Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and he was Hollywood Gold. But but Vince, regardless of how you feel about him, he's saying, listen, I'm going to have WWE studios, and whatever wrestler I see that has potential to become a movie star, I want to push them through this division, this studio.
Yeah.
And right now, with him out the way, Paul Levesque is only saying focus on wrestling, 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 which is not really ideal because you got to remember, you got these wrestlers who he's pushing as over 30, 40 years old, and that shouldn't be just their life. It should be more opportunities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
And this is what you need in the
I
bodybuilding
just
world.
saw John Cena, who's like in his 40s, come back and win 17th world championship, and he's not the same John Cena is. He's changed. He's now a bad guy. He's a heel, but he's been doing movies. The last the last
Commercial.
10 years since his last between the last two years wrestling. You look at a guy like Dave Batista. Guardians of the Galaxy. He also was in a Bond movie. I mean,
George, did you see? George, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you see Captain America: Brave New World?
not yet.
Okay, I want to say this. I'm going to say this. This is where all the female bodies drop the ball. When you watch that movie, there is a little woman. She's 4 feet nothing, and she was beating the crap out of dudes bigger than her. And I say to myself, that's not believable. Now, if you had a female bodybuilder or a female physique, I could say, yeah, that's believable. You had a watch the movie. This woman was like barely 4 feet, took out dudes as Keith size, and I'm like, that's not believable.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And this is what I was trying to say, ladies. If y'all bodybuilding ladies, if y'all listening to this show, my advice for you: get an agent, head out to Hollywood or during the off season, do some acting class. If you have to do a deal with a low budget director, get your foot in, and you could be the next big face in Hollywood. But you got to try.
Yeah, because there's wrestlers right now, especially in the women's ring, that could really make a big push. Good example, Jade Cargill. She just defeated Naomi for because revenge after what happened. She attacked her. Jordan Grace, she's very impressive. The Juggernaut. There's a couple other female wrestlers. There's one lady, I think she's not as big, but she's really popular. Tony Storm. Not built. But she has a particular build. She's very, very, very bottom heavy. She's kind of but but the thing is, again, they have to get out of their own way. They have to really do this. And again, bodybuilding is starting to grow across the globe. It's having the Masters of Olympia in Japan. Just finished the FIBO. Got a show coming up in Germany. There's shows like we just saw some competitors who just turned pro in India.
And here's the thing, George. Remember, I told you when Tina did the Titan show, Tamer and Muscle Contest. If you go look up their site, they have shows in Singapore. They have shows, so many shows internationally. It's crazy for amateurs. Singapore, Thailand. These shows, Tamer is gone internet. I mean, you don't even see him here anymore because he's in Brazil. He understands the market there is huge. So he's like, I'm out. His whole thing is international now. Tamer's whole thing is international now. And it's blown up for him and it's paid big dividends for him because you're going into an area where it wasn't something, now it's something, and people want to see it, and he ain't dumb. And I can't remember how many shows he said. It was like 200 and something shows internationally wise that they're putting on next year, or that's coming up, just overseas alone. And so when you brought this topic up, I'm like, interesting that George said this because internationally they're killing the United States because everybody wants to see it there. I think people get bored and done with it, but everybody wants to see it there. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a lot of
right.
shows.
Also, Keith, also remember those athletes in Brazil. They not just on just bodybuilding podcasts. They hitting every podcast down in Brazil. That is making them also popular. This is the key. It's not that hard, people. It's the key. If you want this sport to grow, you gotta go on every platform. I'm even saying it again, Kai Sanat, go there. You got kids, ladies, they big Kai Sanat fans. Go on that platform. They will be amazed. Oh wow, my mom was a bodybuilder and she's on Kai Sanat's platform. And watch her Instagram and social media grow because now you want to bring younger fans.
George, how crazy! I don't even know some of these places I haven't even heard of. But look at all those shows.
Yeah. There's a show in Rio coming up, and I think it's coming up around about April 19th. That was this past weekend, I believe. Shows in I think it's what is it? I don't know what this place is.
Bali. I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, it looks like somewhere in Brazil. He's going worldwide.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, you got to go where just had the Arnold Schwarzenegger show in Brazil in Rio. You have to. There is like this. If you get something, if you have a product that people want, and it's something that interests them, And if you can sell it to the masses, then you can get attention for it. It can get recognition. You just got to be willing to go out there. Go to like the places that wasn't there before. Talk to the people. Ask what you want to see. What do you want? What do you want from us? Will you like this? Do you think it'll work here? It's gonna take its time. It's gonna be slow at first, but once it start hitting momentum, you should just ride it. Sometimes it's an investment.
Well, and again, what did Tamer do when he put on the Titan show? And I thought it was a great show. He put on a great show, and now and that's when he talked about him going worldwide and all these other things. But Tamer understands sport. You know why Tamer understands sport? Because he was a competitor. And he was competing when I was competing as a light heavyweight and was a good competitor. But he understands, he runs the production for the Olympia, but you need more guys like with that kind of vision than the guys that have the vision now that are not broadening the spectrum of how to make this sport worldwide. It's worldwide to a degree, but it should be a lot bigger because here's the thing at the end of the day. I understand that everybody in KO said it best. Not everybody in the gym is not in the gym to be a bodybuilder. But everybody's in the gym to get to get in shape, to get healthier, to all this other stuff, to live longer and better, because it's better than sitting on your ass wilting away on the couch, because I've seen that happen as well. But at the end of the day, it intrigues people to understand what it takes. On a daily basis at the gym I train at, people call me Dear Abby now because people come up to me and ask me advice all the damn time. And I'm like, and I have a shit ton of clients because everybody's like, who don't you train now? I'm like, it's not by choice because all the clients I have, and I have a shit ton of clients, I don't ask, and since I've been in this industry, I've not asked one person if they wanted a trainer. I said, proof is in the pudding, and when they see what you're doing and they see the results that you're producing, whether you're a bodybuilder, and I don't make my money off of competitors, mind you. I make my money off of weight loss and wellness and just people want to be healthy. Because what people don't understand in this industry, when it comes to when we talk about bodybuilding and all this other shit, that's a seasonal sport. So they don't need you year round. They need you when they're getting ready. When they're bulking or when they're prepping for a show. Weight loss is a year round thing. It's a different kind of niche. So that's what people have to understand when it comes to this sport. They're intrigued by it. They want to get in shape. They want to look better because everything that people do in the gym. People don't go in the gym because they just going in the gym. They go in the gym to change their lives, to change their, not to be a bodybuilder, not to be a competing competitor, but just to be healthier. And being healthier, meaning when you see a guy like me in the gym, like, holy fuck, that's a big guy, I wonder what he's doing, and asking me questions, it's just about a lifestyle change. That's what I tell people. It's a lifestyle change. If you're going to the gym just to work out, I commend they inspire me the most? It's the big people. Because I tell people right away, you know how hard it took you, and personally I say, for you to walk through that door and to come in here is a victory all in itself.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience. I remember when I was going to the gym my first time because I wasn't working out at home, and I would talk to my doctor. He say that you're doing pretty good, but you need a little more. Yeah, I said, what's more to do? So I'm lucky that I had with the my benefits I get, I can go to gym. I was going to Planet Fitness. I went in about every couple of times out of the week, because I had a friend. He was working in the next town over at his job. I'll drop him off. I'll go work out. He usually don't work too long. I might just, stay out around that area till he gets home or go straight home afterward. And, till I had a situation where, I just, was going through some issues and then my car started messing up. I said, well, I want to get back, but, it's going to take me some time. But I try to do stuff like I get up, yourself, I go out and walk. So I can go to the laundromat because it's just just a little bit a mile from where I live at. So that's my walking. I do that a couple of times, maybe out of the week, maybe less. Sometimes I got knees like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they give me problems. But I try to get out, and it's tough trying to break out of those old habits. Like today, I asked my niece if I can borrow her car because I can, go to the laundromat, wash my clothes, take care of that because it's the end of the month and I want to pick up some groceries before everything's because it's a holiday. But I think people had to find the courage to really put themselves out there, to take those opportunities and they're not given to you. You have to take them. We got a comment from my man, Raheem. He stepped out. He says, "This is a great topic. Thank you, brother." He says also this says, one day I got a train with Keith, maybe. I don't know.
Everybody says that till they actually have to work out with me. Then they're like, fuck.
Yeah. It says, George, next gym you should try Blink Fitness, amazing gym. Where if they have in my area, because like I said, I'm in a very small area, you have to really, any kind of other gym, you have to go way, way out. Like I think, so Fat Fitness is a little closer. Plus, my thing, I could probably get in, you don't have to pay as much. Also, we have here, man, Lawrence Perkins says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen, and everyone on the chat." Thank you, brother. See, the thing is, I know sometimes we're go around in circles, but it's always something that we see that we don't get to see. Like again, that's why I say, well, why bodybuilding, being such a fringe sport, is spreading across the world. It was very popular, hit its heights in around about the 80s and the 90s. And now, if you look at the Olympia now, back in the day, it used to be the Olympias like